Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm Felicia from Sweet Georgia, and this is going to be the live office hours for the School of Sweet Georgia. Let me know in the chat if you guys can see me okay, if you guys can hear me okay, if everything is okay, and really excited to get started today. There's lots and lots of things to talk about and lots of projects to share and lots of wonderful things happening inside the school. So this is our time once a month on the last Thursday of every month where we just come and we sort of check in and see what's been happening in the school, what is going to be happening in the school, what are the new courses that are going to be coming out, and all sorts of things like that. So lots and lots of things to share today. Let me just double check that everything is okay. And yes, wonderful, fantastic. Excited to see you guys all here. Now, let me share with you some of the things that we are going to be talking about today. So here's our agenda for today. And so we kind of always go with the same sort of format. We're talking about sort of what's top of mind, what's been happening, what's happening here and around the studio here in Vancouver. And then also we're going to be talking about some of the latest updates, what's been published recently in the school, what's going to be published, what's coming soon. And as well, some of the events that we have, the live events that we have where we can meet up and connect with other members inside the school, which is a really, really nice thing. Thank you, Leanne. Thank you. And also what's happening inside the community. We have a couple of questions this month, which hopefully will spark some conversation. And then, of course, as always, the big thing is to be able to share some of the projects that you have been working on and been building. And that's always the most exciting part of these meetups. So that's fantastic. Really nice to see you all here. Like, where's my button? Okay, here we go. So here is what is top of mind. First thing first is that our dye studio, I don't have a new photo of the dye studio, but it is like 97% done. I think the dye studio itself is working. Everything is fine. Um, Everyone's dying down there. It's good. We just got our sink for our kitchen yesterday. That was put in yesterday, and our dishwasher is in now. And so just all of that stuff is very exciting. It's all coming along, and hope to have some more stuff to share with you about that studio in maybe the coming weeks. But these are the things that have been on my plate currently. This is kind of what I'm working on right now. I started a couple of new projects. So this project here on the right-hand side, this is Betty's Mystique, which is a tank top. And it's like right now, this is just the 1x1 ribbing of the bottom hem of this top. And this has all been knit in the flax and silk fine. So it's a linen and silk blend. I'm knitting this. This is going to be a nice thing to wear underneath, like a cardigan or a jacket or something like that, like a nice summer top. And so I think it's started to get actually quite warm in Vancouver. And so I've been looking at the wardrobe and looking at all the things that I have that are a little bit too hot and looking for new things to wear. And I was just telling Bridget that for some reason I can't find the sweater that I knit in the flax and silk fine in Beach House from a while back. And I used to wear that one all the time in the summer and I can't find it. I don't know where I've put it. So as soon as I find that, that's going to come back out. But in the meantime, I want to make some more things with that linen and silk blend. So that's the flax and silk fine on this side. And then this one here, this is a flax and silk DK. So it's like a heavier weight version of the flaxen, like the linen silk blend. And this one is in a new pattern called Ola Lola by Laura Nelkin. And so I'm learning already some new techniques that Laura has for doing things like bypassing picking up stitches. She creates this kind of provisional stitches on stitch savers, which is kind of like a hollow tube. I've never done this technique before, so I'm definitely learning new things all about this as I go. So that's kind of on the needles. This is on the needles. And then this is on the loom right now in the middle. This is the hand painted warp project that is on my fanny loom at home. And so for the course that we're sort of developing around hand painted warps, I'm experimenting with weaving with a bunch of different weft colors here, just experimenting, seeing what do different weft colors do to this hand painted yarn. So that will be something that will be really interesting to play with. I am in love with this project that is on the loom right now. It is so fun, and I never, ever, ever would have thought that this would be something that I would like. Well, actually, no, I probably did. But I dyed these warps, these cotton warps, ages ago, and then they sat in my attic for years because I wasn't sure what I was going to do with them. And then all of a sudden, putting them both onto the loom at the same time has just made this amazing, fun, very colorful project. If you are at all interested in seeing sort of like a progressive play by play of what's been happening at that loom, I talk about it in our weavers meeting every the second Monday of every month. We're doing this weaving meeting, and members of the school are joining me on Zoom, and we're all talking about what we're weaving. And I've been sharing sort of the progress of this particular project. So that is there if you wanted to come and watch some of the replays that we've already archived in the school. What else is happening? I am spinning the fractals that we are making for the multi-craft make along. So this is actually my fractal spun yarn that's all done. It's actually 3-ply, but this is the leftover bits of bobbin that didn't match up to make 3-plies. So this is just 2-plies at the end of this. And I just have to take this off, wind it into a skein. I'm going to wet finish it, and then I can start actually knitting with my fractal yarn. So I'm very, very excited about that. I have been doing a ton of CSM knitting, and this is partly because I made socks in every single color, in every single new color that we're making for fall for Sweet Georgia. And so I basically made one sock in every color for fall, so 6 individual socks, and took those 6 socks with us to Chicago at H&H. But now I have to make the second sock of each of those colored socks. So I have a bit of cranking that is ahead of me. So I have to do all of those. And then because I have all these socks that I'm cranking, I need to finish the toes. And so what I've done is I've actually recorded a video that's going to go up next Friday, 10 o'clock in the morning, same time slot as we always do. So Friday, 10 a.m., there's going to be a new video, and it's going to be about how to graft the toes on a sock like this. This is basically how I have been doing it lately, which is to graft from the knit side. But absolutely, there are ways of grafting from the inside or from the purl side, and so we'll do those in a video at another time. And we are currently, Greta, who's on the call here, has been working behind the scenes with us and with a wonderful, wonderful sample weaver locally. And we've been working on the summer and winter stuff that is going to be coming out in the coming weeks and months ahead. So really, really excited about all of that. What do we have here? This is kind of like a catch up of all of the things that I have been working on. This is kind of the schedule that I prepared for myself at the start of the year to try to keep on track to doing all the things that we wanted to do. And so, yes, right now, summer and winter is currently being woven. The filming of it is all done of this course. I finished the workbook 2 days ago. Finished writing the sampler pattern 2 days ago. All of these things are just right now being edited, being tweaked, being checked, all of these kinds of things. And then that will come out very, very shortly. And yeah, we are still in the middle of doing some waffle weave stuff at the loom. I am going to be working on some special projects actually, which came up in a bit of a surprise. Yeah, it was a bit of a surprise. But I have some collaborations that are happening that will actually combine my stripes and plaids content and my double weave content, and it will kind of create a new bit of a thing. And so that I'll be able to share hopefully more about in the coming weeks. But those two bits of content, the double weave and the stripes and plaids, uh, there's going to be some interesting things that will hopefully come out of that. So I'm excited to do that. And it's going to be collaborating with some other weavers, with some other ideas and stuff like that. Hand painted warps right now. It's just being woven, and then we can take some photos of it. And then what we're doing with this hand painted warp class is we're actually splitting it into 2. And so I can talk more about that in a little bit. And then spinning for the night shift is done. I'll be ready to knit that. I have to actually knit the traveler's cowl now. That's next. And then I need to finish cranking all of those individual socks and all those individual colors so that I can change my um, circular sock knitting machine setup and add the ribber and then focus on actually practicing making these ribbed socks. So if you do any circular sock knitting, you might know Steve Ashton, who is also a CSM instructor. He teaches people how to use their circular sock knitting machines. He's done a lot of cranking, obviously. He had a business basically making custom kilt hose, custom kilt socks for Highland dancers. And so he has tons and tons of experience with actually making socks on a circular sock knitting machine. And we've been chatting a bit about my not diving into the river function of my machine. And so he's giving me a lot of encouragement about getting going with that. So sooner than later, I have to get this sooner than later. I got to get on this. So that is kind of what has been on my plate lately. And let's share some of the things that are coming out in the school. So this is the next course to come out very, very shortly. Maybe Greta has the exact date, but this is the next course that's coming out, and it is about grading knitwear. So if you have a pattern that you've written for a sweater that you want to be able to publish or something like that, but you want to be able to make all of the different sizes for that particular sweater, this is where you need to know how to grade knitwear. So you take like your size 12 and then you make it 14 different sizes. How do you get down to the smallest size? How do you get up to the biggest size? How do you do this? Because it's not just obviously a straight line increase. You don't just like double things and triple things. So this is where Holly has a ton of experience in creating these patterns for many, many, many different sizes. And so that's something that you should check out if you're interested in designing your own knitwear, and especially designing garments, being able to size up the different garments and things like that. So that is coming out next. Greta says coming out next week. Thank you. And then we have earlier this year, we came out with the Overshot. And this is just a reminder that that is coming out. And then we have, oh, so Leanne is asking, will grading knitwear course include children's sizes? Maybe Greta can answer that in the chat. I don't believe that it specifically covers children's sizes, but what Holly does is she's entering a lot of size. She's using size information from size charts. And so you could plug in numbers for children's sizes and then do all of your grading from there. Okay, so just a reminder that we were doing a whole thing this year about weaving blocks, learning how to weave blocks, supplementary weft block weave structures. And so the first one that we started with was Overshot. So you can see that. And then you can see that the next one we did after that is Crackle. That's the one that's most recently come out, I believe. And then after that, we are going to be coming out with the summer and winter. So these are all three of these are all block weave structures. And they're all a little bit similar and a little bit different. And so we wanted to put them all together this year so that way you could see the commonalities between these different weave structures. You could hopefully see how they connect, how they are similar, and then also how they are different. And hopefully, looking at all three of these different weave structures will trigger you to think about different ways that you could use color, texture, different kinds of yarn, mixing and blending different things to create your own different kinds of fabric. So, like one of the things that we showed here is like Overshot. I have here the ground warp is a 10-2 mercerized cotton, and then the ground weft that I was using here was also a 10-2 mercerized cotton. So this is like a very fine, shiny-ish cotton yarn. And then in the middle here, I'm using, this looks like this was my hand spun. So I was using soft and squishy wool hand spun to compress between the ground weft picks. And so it creates this beautiful design on the top, but this design is kind of filled in because of the poofiness and the squishiness of the wool that I'm using. And so contrasting that with this, which is also again like a supplementary weft block weave, I theoretically could have used a soft and squishy wool yarn for like these orange blocks or this yellow block, and it would really fill in more of that pattern. It would fill in more of this block and look more solid. But I chose to use a thinner yarn here so that we can see the background colors coming out and hopefully creating more optical mixing and blending. Because I wanted to see that this orange crossing over this yellow weft, I'm sorry, this orange weft crossing over this yellow warp looks different. This block looks different than this block, which is the orange weft crossing over white warp. And so I want to show that each one of these little individual 1-inch squares is a totally different optical mix of colors. And I can only get that if I'm using a pattern weft yarn that is thin enough so that you can see what's happening in the background. So these are just some of the ways that we want to kind of experiment with colors and play, because you can see in this block here, right here, there's actually 3 different colors going on. There's an orange and a white and a blue, a turquoise blue. All of that mixing is happening in here. And so I want to see that in each one of these blocks, there's so many different colors happening. So I think that I counted something like in this whole area of 1, 2, 3, 4 by 4 blocks by 4 blocks, 4-inch square, there's something like 14 different color combinations based on, seeing the colors from the background mixing with the colors in the foreground and all sorts of things like that. So hopefully you can take something like this and really play and enjoy and really dive deep into a weave structure like this. So that's kind of what we were doing on the weaving side of things this year. And then we also have new spinning classes. So this is the one that we have been filming with Diana Twiss. And so Greta has been here at the studio filming with Diana and Kathy. And Diana has been teaching more and more and more about spindles. If you'll see in here, Diana's spindle collection, her supported spindle collection and her suspended spindle collection. And you can see this is a Turkish spindle, and she's basically showing how you wind a turtle onto this Turkish spindle, and it's just beautiful. It's this winding this is really lovely. It makes a beautiful, beautiful, very enticing little ball of hand spun yarn, and it just makes you want to spin. And so that is really, really lovely. You can even see the background of this cloth that she's put on the table in order to sort of spin on top of is also hand spun and hand woven. So there's so much about all of this that's very, very inspiring. And so I'm looking forward to seeing this class come out. So I'm not sure if we decided on this particular title. We still have been working with working titles, but it is spindling, spindles, more spindles, next level spindles, all of that. Yes, Diana's course is going to inspire a lot of spinners. And we have a lot of spinners in the school. I think most people in the school said that they also spin or they came to learn how to spin. So hopefully you guys will enjoy that. This is the course that I was talking about earlier about the hand painted warp class. So what we were planning to do initially was create this course where we were teaching how to dye the hand painted warp and then how to weave with the hand painted warps. And so what we've done is we've actually split it into 2 so that we can sort of release the dyeing portion of it, and then you get the dyeing chunk. You can go and wind your warps and design some warps and then dye a whole bunch of warps. And then at a later date, we're going to release the content about actually weaving with those hand painted warps. And so there's a bit of a separation. One will be more like a dyeing sort of class, and the other one will be more like a weaving sort of class. And so that's a nice separation rather than trying to combine them all into one thing, just to kind of split it up a little bit. But this was my table here in this very room where we did a lot of the dyeing for the cotton warps here. And so this is really, really neat. You can see here we're using Dharma fiber reactive dyes. We have taught a fiber reactive dye course before on the school, and this is kind of a bit of a walking through a bit of a review, going through all of that process again, but also really enjoying the fact that you don't need to cook any of this dye. If you're dyeing with cotton, you don't need like a kitchen where you can heat things up or cook things or anything like that. Like I just laid this on the table here. I put this plastic tablecloth down on the table to protect the surface. And then we just painted warps on here. And then I folded them all up and then let them batch in this very room. So you could do this outside, you could do this in the garden, you could do this in your backyard, you could do this in your garage. There's a lot of places that you can dye your cotton yarn that is much more accessible, and you don't need this whole separate kitchen or cooking equipment or steaming equipment or anything like that. So it's actually quite easy. And so hopefully with this course, we'll be able to just share with you how easy it is, and then maybe you can do this as well, because weaving with these hand painted warps has been so much fun. So in any case, that is what is happening with that particular class. And then just to give you a preview, we do have a class coming out with Andrea Rangel. Andrea came to us in Vancouver from Victoria. She's on Vancouver Island, and she came to teach a couple of classes that we're going to be sharing over the next couple of months. And the first one is designing a color work hat. So it's taking sort of color work patterns and being able to translate that over something small and simple and something that you can start with, which is a hat. And then in a couple of months after that, we're going to do another one with Andrea where she's teaching how to design a color work sweater. So that would be a yoke. It has a stranded color work yoke, and so that one is going to also be really, really lovely. I believe that one's coming out in January, or that's the plan. But these are the courses that we've just now filmed with Andrea, and really, really excited to be able to share those. I think what we want to do is almost maybe do a bit of a make along or a knit along for this colorwork hat project, perhaps in the fall, because that will give us time to either, like, if you want to spin yarn for a project like this for your hat, or if you want to get a couple of colors of yarn that you've maybe dyed. A hat doesn't take a ton of yarn. And so definitely there's something that we can definitely do about making something together. And Greta's saying that Andrea is also looking for test knitters for the stranded colorwork hat and pullover. So you can just message Greta if you would like to participate in that in a test knit. And another course that we have coming out soon, or actually this fall, is going to be with Rachel Smith, and this is going to be Spin to Knit a Hat. And so you can see here this gorgeous, gorgeous hat, which actually Greta made, right? So Greta spun the yarn for this. You can see this beautiful smooth gradient, beautiful yarn, and then knit up into this hat. And so this hat project is one where Rachel is going to teach basically looking at your hand spun and then being able to figure out your gauge and then work to create a hat based on the yarn that you've created. So really, really excited about that. The hat is really, really beautiful and it feels amazing. And so really excited for that to come out as well. So you happen to have a gradient handspun skein in your stash. Yes. Oops. There's too many buttons here. Okay, fantastic. So that is that, and excited for that to come out too. Here we go. Okay, so upcoming events. Yes. So yes, those are all the courses that are coming out in the next couple of months. We have a lot of stuff we can make and do. A lot of stuff where there's a lot of crossover as well between the different crafts. And that's something that we've always really, really wanted to do, is just to show a lot of, you can dye the fiber, you could blend the fiber, you can do the fiber prep, you can do the spinning, you can then make the yarn that becomes the hat or the sweater or whatever it is. And so just showing you all the different things that you can do with all of these fiber arts and crafts. So this is our calendar for June. So coming up in June, we always have our live office hours the last Thursday of every month. That is what we're doing here. And then we have been doing Crafternoons with Robin on Mondays. So the first Monday and the third Monday at 10 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. So there is a group that's just meeting very regularly. It's a very casual, chatty group. And then we started to do some very topic focused, very specific meetings. So on the second Monday of every month in the evening, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, I'm hosting a weaving meeting. And then the fourth Monday, Greta is hosting a fiber prep meeting. So, fiber prep in terms of blending board, in terms of using hand cards, diz, making rollags, using drum carder, all of that kind of thing. And then we also added a Monday night, the first Monday of every month, we're adding a multi-craftual Maker Monday meetup. And so that is basically open to our entire sort of Sweet Georgia community. Anybody can join, anybody can come. And that has been really, really fun just to get together. And, we're talking about fractal spinning, we're talking about spinning, we're talking about knitting, talking about weaving, just anything along those lines. So those are kinds of the meetings that have been happening. We also have on Friday, a community-led sort of quiet working, quiet virtual co-working time. And so that is 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Fridays. And this group is basically you can come and sit in on Zoom, and everybody is sort of on mute, but they're all working away in the background. And it's actually quite amazing how productive you can be just sitting there and having other people working alongside you. You can actually get quite a lot done. So in the past, people would bring things like, having to weave in 100 ends and this kind of stuff that you don't really want to do. But when you sit with other people, you manage to get a lot of stuff done, and it's very, very productive. And then after that 1 hour, everybody goes off mute, and then you can chat for as long as you like if you want to stay and chat for a bit. So that group is there as well. And then you're going to see that we have added a couple of new groups here, these inkle weaving groups on Wednesdays, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And that is going to be a new sort of study group. And I'm going to talk about that in a little bit as well. And then Caprice is asking, Tour de France starts on June 29th. Will there be a Tour de Fleece group on SOS? And yes, we are doing Tour de Fleece spinning stuff. Absolutely. So there's going to be a thread on SOS for sure. We've done that in the past as well. And so that is going to be coming up as well. And of course, I mean, everybody is chatting about that. We have that in Discord as well. We're chatting about Tour de Fleece on Discord. So this is just a quick reminder of all the things that we are sort of working on. So April 1st to July 31st, we've been doing sort of a fractal study, and lots of people are spinning their fractal yarns right now. July, like we just mentioned, is Tour de Fleece time. So we do a lot of spinning during July, talking about portable spinning, spinning every day, getting into the habit of spinning, spinning your 10 minutes a day, all of that kind of stuff. So we can do that. And then September, we still haven't decided if we're going to do combo spinning or gradient spinning, but that's another focus for that time. And then October is always Socktober. And November, we're doing a rigid heddle focus as well. So that's all coming up. Just a reminder of those multi-craftual Mondays where we're talking about fractal spun yarns. You guys are all welcome to join us there. The crafternoons, like I mentioned with Robin, first and third Mondays at 10 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. You guys can join us there on Zoom. These are the topic focused meetups. So, my weaving meetup on Mondays and fiber prep meetup with Greta as well. So, these are all very specific meetings where we're just talking about that one particular topic rather than, all the things. So, that is that. And part of what we're trying to offer is the ability for our community and our members to sort of make your own meetup. If none of these times work for you, and if you feel like, oh, I'm working during that time, or I'm in a different time zone and other times are more convenient, you can absolutely propose your own meetup time, and we can absolutely support you in doing that. We can provide Zoom links, we can provide all of that kind of stuff. We can let people know, we can put things on the board for you, all of that stuff. And so just let us know if you want a meetup in a different time. And so that's how this kind of came about. It's this inkle weaving study group that was founded because a bunch of our members were very, very curious about wanting to learn how to weave on an inkle loom. And we don't have an inkle loom weaving course yet. We don't have any content yet, but this is a bit of a self-study group. So it's people who are very interested in exploring this right now. And so they're doing it together. They're just exploring it together. So they're going to be working on either an inkle or an inklet loom. Inklet loom is from Ashford. It makes like a smaller, it's a smaller warp length. I think it's about 72 inches long that you can make a band, versus an inkle loom. A full-size inkle loom is more like 100 inches of warp. And so they're just going to explore and try and start this. And so if you are at all interested in learning about inkle weaving or trying this, or you kind of like want to follow along and see what people are doing and seeing how it works, then I do encourage you to find this link, and they're going to start to have meetings. So I believe the first meeting they said was June 12th. June 12th and then June 26th. And then they're just going to meet and start to sort of share knowledge, explore and share knowledge together. And I started to go down a bit of a rabbit hole with the inkle weaving stuff as well. Started to look up patterns, started to look up different ways that you can combine colors. This is very much like you could just do plain weave, you could start to do different weave structures. There's so much to explore with this loom. And one of the things that's really cool about inkle weaving is that the loom is very portable. You can pick this up and take it with you. You can take it on a vacation. You can take it with you camping. You can take it in a bag and take it with you. And so that has become actually quite attractive for doing something like that. And also, this is your little shuttle and beater all in one, and you're making a warp-faced fabric with an inkle loom. And so there's many things about this that are actually quite appealing. You could make this with maybe like a hand-painted warp, maybe, perhaps, maybe. Why not? So lots of things to explore and try. So if you are at all interested in inkle weaving, I do encourage you guys to go check that out. Next, this is just a reminder that we are doing a lot of this chatting and all these conversations, like the SOS, the Tour de Fleece thread, and all of that kind of stuff. All of these long, sort of in-depth questions and conversations are happening inside the community forums for the school. So if you haven't been there yet, I do encourage you to go check out that space. And that's under the community tab, and then you'll find the community forums here. And there's lots of different ways to connect with the community here. We also have Discord chat, which is open to the public. It's open to everybody if you want to come in. And there's lots and lots of conversations from everybody who's interested in spinning and weaving and knitting and crochet. Lots and lots of conversations about all of those things. There's even an ongoing conversation about 3D printed tools. And one of our members has printed a circular sock knitting machine, has printed a cone winder, has printed a number of things. And so all of these things, it's just neat to see people exploring their curiosity. Just follow your curiosity, and there will be people who are also interested in the same thing. And it's nice to be able to share that with someone. So, for questions and answers, this is a question that I received very recently from Kirsten. And she's saying, I got into fiber arts a couple of years ago through needle felting. And then I wanted to learn how to spin so that I could create specific yarn for my felting projects. I then fell in love with spinning, so I wanted to do something else with it. I learned how to crochet, but I have realized that there are many more people who knit instead, and many more videos for that, not just at SOS, but everywhere. Why is that? What are the pros to knitting versus crochet? I'm thinking of learning both. And I think what I wanted to say about this is that I don't necessarily think that there are more people who knit than crochet. I think I heard some sort of a stat that there's actually more people in, say, the United States who crochet, more people who crochet than knit, but they don't necessarily identify as like crocheters, but they know how to crochet. Lots of people know how to make a granny square. They might know how to make chain stitch or single crochet, but they don't necessarily call themselves crocheters. And so that was a little bit of a thing. So there are lots and lots of people out there who do crochet. It's possible that you're seeing more content about knitting, maybe because you have been knitting, but there are lots and lots of people who make tons of beautiful and amazing crochet content. And crochet has been super, super popular. That was one of the things that we talked about a lot at H&H, was that there is this popularity of crochet that is not necessarily being noticed. And I think that that's maybe what you're feeling. There are a lot of people who crochet. There is a lot of popularity in crochet. Um, and there is content about it. You kind of just have to seek it out, but it's all there. And I feel like this is the kind of thing that happens with an algorithm, is that once you start looking for crochet content, the algorithm will then deliver you more crochet content. So it's all out there. And so you're thinking about learning both. I would encourage you to learn both. That's part of what we do here, is just encourage you to learn all of the things and see how they are all interconnected. They are different. The kind of fabric that you can create with knitting is going to feel and look different from fabric that you create through crochet. So with like using the same yarn, when you're crocheting, the fabric will feel a little bit thicker. It can feel a little bit thicker, but there's lots of things that you could do that are different. Maybe you're making lace with crochet. Maybe you can also do color work with crochet. Maybe you can change the weight of the yarn that you're using for crochet. There's a lot of different things that you could do. And so I think that rather than choosing knitting or crochet based on how much content there appears to be available out there, I would encourage you to do both, and then just do the things that you like, make the things that you like. Really, again, follow your curiosity and do the things that you like. Like Greta's saying, we are happy to enable you to learn both. Absolutely. There's so, so much to learn for everything. Like I said, I'm starting a knitting project from Laura Fry's new pattern and learning new things every day, even though I started knitting when I was in grade 4. And so there's always more to learn. So I do encourage you to learn all the things. Next question was from Diana. Diana has been working on doing this micro sampling, and these are absolutely beautiful samples. I wanted to share this with you because there's a bit of a long conversation here going on about scaling down and micro sampling. So, Diana was asking, what is the technique for acid dyeing in jars? I've been hand painting 2 to 6 gram samples in 1/3 size catering tins in the oven. I'm not, yes. So only using food coloring so far. So this is Wilton's Buttercup Yellow. So this is a food coloring that you can see when you go into this link here, into this conversation. Diana has showed sort of the trays that she's using. They're stainless steel trays, very, very small trays. And then she's put like a chunk of fiber in each one, and then dyeing them at different depths of shade. And so you can see everything from the very, very light depth of shade to the darker depth of shade. Um, I believe she's dyeing the fiber itself and then taking a chunk of fiber, putting it on this beautiful card here, but then also spinning a little bit of it into these little handspun samples and then putting the handspun yarn on here. It's absolutely gorgeous, all of this work to produce these samples. And so we talked about how to actually dye these small amounts in little jars. And this is exactly what I do. In testing little colors, you don't want to use necessarily a full skein because it's a lot of resources being used for testing colors and dyeing colors. So I will do things like cutting one skein open and then just taking a few strands of that skein, weighing those strands, maybe like 10 strands of a skein of yarn. So you weigh those strands, and maybe it's like 5 grams, maybe it's 10 grams, maybe it's whatever it is. And then I take those 5 or 10 grams of yarn, put them into a mason jar or a small jam jar, and then I would also add my dyes to that. And then you can take all of those jars, put them into a larger stock pot, and then kind of add a little bit of water at the bottom, and you can sort of steam those a little bit. You don't want it to be a rolling boil because then that will make your canning jars kind of jump in the pot, but just a little bit of water at the bottom so it's not dry at the bottom of the pot. And then let it simmer, and then you can cook your little micro samples that way. And so this is a very, very good way of preserving your resources. You're not spending so much fiber, so much yarn. So I think that what you're doing here is absolutely, it's great. It's already, it's fantastic. So you can follow that thread. Oh yes, Greta's already put a link to the thread in there. Yeah, I encourage you to follow all of the other photos that she's got here. They're really, really lovely. So, this is the share your win section where we're going to talk about all of the projects that you guys have been making. And so, the first one that I want to share is from Margaret, because Margaret has been making use of the photo albums function in the community. And so, she was saying, oh, she didn't know where to post her photos, but rather than posting them in a thread, she's created photo albums that are attached to her profile. So you can see all of the step by step of making these particular Rolags if you go to her photo album here. And so she said, I watched the course blending boards from Rolags to roving twice and made some Rolags using fiber from my stash. And so you can see her blending board, you can see how she weighed all of the individual fibers that she used, and then made these little bundles. So you can see the whole process of that. Through her photo album here. And so I'm going to share with you the next slide is yes. So if you go to the community section and then go to your profile, you will be able to see these tabs. There's a tab for your activity, about me, albums, and then any images that you've posted. So albums, these are the albums that Margaret has created already. So she made one for all of the Rolags. So you can see the little piles of fiber that she's created, these little bundles. Blending board here, and that's a Rolag. And then she also has another album here, with these cute little, super cute little baby garments. And then another one here for the Structo Artcraft loom that she's been working on. And so you can just kind of like encapsulate all of your topics, all of your photos in these albums. So I encourage you guys to check that out if you have not yet tried making a photo album of your stuff. It's a really great way to organize all of your stuff and have it still findable, because sometimes when you post images they'll go into a thread, and it may it may it may be nice to have them in a place where you can access them and see them more readily. So that is that. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. And then we have Juliet was on the chat today, but Juliet made these photos, this amazing collage. So basically, Juliet has a new brother XL double wide drum carder. And so I put in this photo. It has the fiber that she initially started with, and then the fiber on the drum carder, and she sort of blended it all to make this massive bat. And then she has dizzed the fiber off the bat, you can see down here, to make these beautiful, gloriously soft, fluffy bundles of prepped fiber. And then she spun them. And if you follow this thread, you will be able to see the ginormous bat that she's created. And then this huge bat that she's created. And then after that, you can also see the yarn that has been spun. She's already finished doing the yarn, I believe. So this is, I love it. It's so, so nice. So Juliet said that the yarn is actually thin enough to knit on one of her knitting machines, and it's 1,130 yards. So that is definitely a lot. Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that. But yeah, you do have to see the photo of Juliet with the giant bat. It's humongous. So Juliet's saying, I used 2 different stripe spacing on the carder to get the fractal. So yes, it's making a fractal yarn from this giant bat here. And then we have more fractal yarns. This is by Pearl. Pearl saying that she just recently got this new cranberry colored sparrow. This is a Daedalus. I'm sure it's a Daedalus wheel, right? No, is it? I think it is. It's a sparrow. And so Pearl has made a 3-ply fractal for the first time, and then spinning onto these bobbins, and then plying from 3 bobbins together to make about 220 yards. And she says that the yarn is surprisingly soft and round. So I just wanted to show you. This is it. I wanted to show you the e-spinner because it's so adorable. The e-spinner is super cute. But then this is her actual yarn, and it's so even and consistent and so pretty. It's very, very nice. It's beautifully done. Pearl was saying that she basically wound her yarn, her handspun, onto a warping board, and she uses that to basically measure. So she's wound it onto the warping board using 2 yard measure. And that way she's able to count how much yardage she actually has. So that's one way. So if you follow that thread, you'll be able to see what Pearl is talking about and more photos of the yarn that she's made. Really lovely. This is a fractal handspun from Brenda. So Brenda is using our Targhee in the Storm Chaser colorway. And she's saying she spun and plied it on the Magicraft rose wheel. She dizzed it off of the hand carders like we've been talking about for the past couple of months. And it looks fluffy and squishy and really, really lovely. Brenda has been chatting about this in the Discord as well. So you can find her on both spots. But there is that post in the Multicultural Make Along Spinning Fractal Yarns post. We also have more yarn that has been inspired by Kim McKenna's class. This one is the raindrop yarn. And so Lisa is saying that she's using BFL silk in tapestry from our Sweet Georgia and then merino bamboo in white. And so raindrop yarn with the gold and tan bits and occasional pale magenta. So the raindrop yarn is just like a tiny little hint of color, and it's just a sprinkling of color. Really, really gorgeous. And so Lisa says that she put more color than is intended, but I like it. It's beautiful. So if you want to look at some of this, some of the techniques of how to make these kinds of yarns, including the fractal yarns, the raindrop yarns, then you can check out Kim McKenna's class. It is Spin a Hand-Dyed Braid 5 different ways, 5 ways. And this is more raindrop yarn. So if you follow, Leanne is here in the chat as well. Leanne's project here is a raindrop yarn that she created that was also supposed to have a bit of a fade component to it. So she wanted to make like a gradient fading raindrop yarn. And we talked about this in the last live office hours as well. If you follow this thread, you'll be able to see her whole process for how she created this. And there's a lot of detail about like weighing the yarn, weighing the colors, and all this kind of stuff. But out of that, she's created this amazingly beautiful yarn. It's a gradient, it's a fade, it's raindrop, and then knitted this poncho, which is really lovely. And so this is the front of the poncho with the pinks and the purples that she says that she likes. And then she said the back turned out to be mostly blue stripes. And so she has photos from all different sides of this poncho. Really, really great. Beautiful. So this is like epic projects going on here. You know, from the dyeing to the blending and the spinning and then the knitting. It's fantastic. We have another big spin here. This is the first big spin by Suzanne. And she says, I'm pulling together everything that I've learned by following all the spinning courses. And I have finished my first big spin. This is a 3-ply, 10 wraps per inch. It's about 600 grams. So it's about a pound and a half, pound and a bit. 1,450 meters. Each skein weighs about 50 grams, and I simply couldn't resist making skein wraps. It's been carded on a drum carder, blended, mixed, and blended to create very uniform bats. This yarn looks so beautifully even and consistent and well blended. You could see the heather that's in here. You can see that it's like round. It looks squishy. I love that there are wraps on this. This looks so professional. It looks like yarn that you could buy in a yarn store. It's absolutely gorgeous. So congratulations on that first big spin. I believe um I believe might become a sweater. I'm not sure. So yes, Suzanne, congratulations on that. It's fantastic. Amazing. We also have a post from Catherine. So this post happened like just after our last live office hours. So it was like near the beginning of the month. But this is fantastic. It is stunning. You always, when you follow the things that Catherine's made, they're always just beautiful hand woven projects. But this is basically a, a towel project that was based on the radiant towels that we made for the hand woven color optical mixing class. And then Catherine added a bit of a twill pattern in there. So there's like a little bit of a twill going on in the there's a weave structure going on behind in the background. It's not just plain weave, but it's sort of based on the color mixing and blending idea of that class, of the radiant towel class. And then she's been hemming them. And so she wanted to share the technique that she has learned or that she's been using in order to make really, really nice, consistent, neat hems. And it's actually by using something called a bi-level presser foot. And so here is the link to the course where that pattern was taught. But you can find her whole sort of towel thread here. And rather than using a regular presser foot, she's using this bi-level presser foot. So I went and I found a photo of it so you could sort of see what's going on. But this presser foot is basically two levels. So one of the levels of the feet sits on top, and then the other level, there's a split here. It kind of rides against or kind of pushes against the side where there's a bit of a seam. So this would be pushing against the side where there would be like this hem going on here, right? You folded it 2 times and then you're going to sew along this edge. So the smaller part of that foot, the lower level of that foot, will sit down here and the higher level of the foot will sit up here. So those two levels will help sort of hold the fabric exactly in the right spot so that you can run this line, this straight stitch right on top of that seam. It's really, really neat. And so you can see this is actually a photo from Janome, and it's like, yeah, they're bi-level foot, and you can see they're trying to like sort of top stitch some jeans. And so you can imagine trying to sew through a number of layers of jeans denim fabric is going to be quite thick, and so this is going to be at a higher level than this side. So in any case, that is something that might be a good investment if you are doing a lot of hemming and you're wanting to sew your hand woven fabrics. This is talking about sewing hand woven fabrics. This is Amanda's epic cloth project that she's been working on. So she, if you follow this thread, she has a plan, she has an inspiration and an idea to make a bomber style jacket out of hand woven fabric. And so this is really, really lovely. So these are 3 fabrics that have come out of her weaving process so far. And part of it's because I think she said she ran out of weft yarn. And so she was changing weft yarns. And so there's a variety of different fabrics going on. There's one, the brown one in the back here. And then she said she ran out of weft yarn for that. So then she wove this red one. It's a hybrid weave structure, she said, based on the upholstery fabric in the foyer of the concert hall um, at QPAC in Brisbane, Australia. So she is sort of modeling this particular fabric after upholstery fabric from a concert hall in Australia. And she's using weft yarn that is hand spun from a Hill Radnor bat from Katrina Stewart that they did for Rachel Smith's Breed and Collar study a few years ago. And then when she ran out of the red, then she switched to this sort of dyed black wool and silk that is in blue. And so you can see there's a bit of a grid pattern happening here. It looks like almost like a dot grid happening. And that is the latest fabric. And so she's sort of finished all these fabrics. I believe she's ironed them. She's pressed all the fabrics. They are all ready. But these are all fabrics that are sort of in this entire process of trying to get to fabric to make this hand sewn jacket at the end of the day. So amazing. I'm very excited to see how this epic project comes out as well. And here we have some towels by Lauren. Lauren was using a rigid heddle loom here to make some overshot towels. So this is a pattern that was actually available from Gist Yarns, and Gist had suggested some other yarns. I believe it was Mallow and Duet that they suggested for these towels for their pattern. But Lauren wanted to use yarn that she already had, so she ended up using 8-2 cotton from Broussard and some 3-2 Gist beam. So you can see the beam is the thicker yarn. It's this one that's sort of the pattern weft here. It's really popping out. And then this ground sort of tabby weft is the 8-2 Broussard cotton. And so she says, oh, the results are very soft and squishy and looks really neat. So we had talked before about, how do you do overshot on a rigid heddle loom? Um, and so this is one of the patterns that you can get, I believe, from the Gist Yarns website. Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. And that is the end of all of the projects for this month. Yes, fantastic. So thank you guys so much for being here every month to share all your projects. It's always great to see what you guys are making. And yeah, this has been a really busy month. And it's always nice to see all the things that you guys have been making, all of the conversations that have been happening. Greta and I are obviously very excited to see everybody come out to these meetings every month on Mondays and to be able to share what everyone's working on. And it has been really, really good to have these Monday meetings. And we are recording them. So, again, if you're finding it difficult to make these meeting times, we are recording the weaving meeting and the fiber prep meeting, and they are getting archived and hosted onto our SOS website, so you can find them at a later date, and that is totally available for everybody who is a member. And so I wanted to thank you guys for being here, for coming every month to meet with me and to chat and to be on this call and to see all of the things that everybody is making. And please do feel free to reach out if you guys have any suggestions or anything that you'd like to see in the school. We are always here sort of listening to see what you guys are most interested in making. And hopefully, if many of you guys are inspired by the inkle weaving idea, that you might join that inkle weaving study group. I know that when I was looking into some of the inkle weaving patterns, the immediate thought was, do we have an inkle loom at the studio? Can we get one? How soon can we get one? And can we actually try this? And really just excited by everyone's enthusiasm around this. So thank you so much. Thank you for being here. And I guess I will see you guys in the next one. Next month, it's the last Thursday of June, and I will see you guys there. Thanks so much for being here. Bye for now.